actually relates to A7. If I put an A at the bottom, I get a longer A7. People often don't understand what I mean by longer. I mean it's like 1, 3, 5, 7 with a flat 9 on the top. For me, that all comes from that C sharp diminished relationship with A7 that I talk about in other lessons that I'll link somewhere. So you can either play A7 or you just play the C sharp diminished. It's pretty common to play C sharp diminished on this tune just from my ear, so I'm going to do that. And I am also used to hearing what goes on here more, this D minor 7 to G7 twice, so I'm going to do exactly that. Gives me a bit more to play there. This, by the way, is a tune that Barry Harris got me to accompany the singers on. I think one of the first times I accompanied his singers, I barely knew the tune. And he said, "Who knows it?" And I said, "Kind of." He said, "Well, that's better than anything else I've heard in the room, so get on there and 8 keys, please, son." That was an interesting afternoon, let's say.
누가 감히 내 연주에 동정을
2-5, D minor 7. Okay, this will be beautiful for Barry Harris moves later on. That F with a C major. You know, some people will assume it's wrong and get rid of it. But I think it's actually perfect. Like in this one here, you'll see that, you know, it's been kind of sanitized with a G7 to C there. But actually in the Barry Harris moves, which we'll see when I create that lesson, we'll have more sort of, we'll have more to do there because of that unsettled note. But what I am going to do is say, yeah, I do like the idea of having an E7 before A minor, because otherwise we really have nothing going on before that A minor. And what we'll commonly do is put a 2-5 there. So E7 is the 5 of A minor. But if we go B minor 7 flat 5 to E7, then we've got a 2-5. That's a half diminished sign for anybody not sure. It means the same as B minor 7 flat 5 to E7, which is a 2-5 to A minor 7. So we've got now on the first line, A minor 7. Yeah, I don't need 9s written on things, as I said to you before. I'm just happy to see D7. I know if that needs to be a natural 9 or not. In this case it does, which we'll see when I create some lessons about voicings on these, but we do have the 9 on there. It doesn't mean we have to write a 9 chord. That should be obvious to a jazz musician. And then 2-5. I don't like holding that G7 for so long. Let's see what they did on the original. Yeah, in the original it was C to G7, which makes more sense. But you know what I really like on these areas is a quick turnaround. E minor, A7, and in the same bar we go D minor G7. So that's a quick turnaround. That's a 1-6-2-5 substitution, 1-6-2-5 being C major, often A7, D minor to G7. And that C major gets substituted with an E minor 7 because they're so similar. E minor 7 or C major 7. You can put the C major 7 shell at the bottom and it works fine. So it shows how related they are. We'll often go like this if I go from the bar before. So now we've got an A section I'm really starting to enjoy. So let's just go through it. Here we go. And just a tip there, when you've got a chord 5, G7 is the 5th chord of C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're going to chord 3, which is relatively common, you can just walk your bass down. So I wouldn't normally write this in, but I'll just put it in so you see what I'm talking about. A G7 over F, like that. This is the kind of thing that is just understood but not written. So if I go from this D minor 7, and then the quick turnaround because you've got to be quick. Okay, so that's our A section down. Okay, so looking at the second A section, virtually the same. It's just that it'll end on a C6 because we are whole and complete. You know, something that's very common is that tunes, when they're AABA, the melody note at the end of the first A is often the third or fifth of the scale. This is the fifth, G. And the melody note at the end of the second A is more complete, the root, like that. This is quite common, and when you have the root of the scale in the melody, so in other words C against a C major chord, you play C6, as I'm always saying. C6, there's my shell, root and sixth, and there's my C6 chord inverted to fit in my melody. This is the kind of thing that a lot of lead sheets won't tell you. Like if we look at these original chord changes, we just get a C, we don't get anything. It's up to us to decide. Which is why a lot of the books are actually wrong, because some people don't quite get that and they just assume that everything in jazz is a 7. So, oh yeah, those jazz guys, if it's a minor, they go minor 7. If it's a major, they go major 7. Well, it's often 6, okay? Anyway, this one is actually correct. Now, although I have passing chords and movements and things that I will play on future lessons, that's enough for me for those first two A sections as a lead sheet to then leave it open for me to do what I want with it later. Now, in the B section, we 2, 5, 1. I don't need these C9s again. C7's perfectly fine for me. And that's a 2, 5 to F. 2, 5, 1. F being the fourth chord of C, so it's 2, 5 to the fourth in C. Happens twice. Then we 2, 5 again. I don't need B flat 9. Happy with B flat 7, even though the melody is a ninth. That's obvious to me. Don't need to see it. 2, 5, 1's down a whole tone into E flat. Why E flat diminished? We'll find that out. And then we have this sort of unusual way of getting out of the key and back again, out of the key change. So let's just play through that and see. So I understand why they wrote F6, because you get the 6 in the melody. However, notice I've got my major 7 of F, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in my chord. That's not forbidden when you have a 6 in the melody. It would be better if lead sheets knew to put, like for example, let's look at the end. This lead sheet didn't know to put a C6 right on the end. It just left it as C. So I've just changed it to